Developers, when they're buying a property, they try to put down almost no deposit. That's not always that easy to negotiate, but anyway. Yeah, so we could talk about deposit structure. It's one of those things where the deposit really doesn't matter, practically speaking, because if you don't waive, the deposit goes away. And obviously it's possible that somebody literally not able to finance the deal, but before an offer is received and virtually accepted, then it's the job of the agent, the selling agent, or the agent representing the seller, to get the credentials of the buyer, to know that they're a credentialed buyer and not have to rely on a deposit to, I guess you could call it, virtue signal that they have money. Anybody can have $200,000 or $100,000 for a deposit. It's having $2 million or $4 million or $5 million to close. It's being able to close that matters. But in all real estate, commercial real estate included, the agent and the vendor get unreasonably swayed by a deposit because it shows that they're financially secure. It doesn't really show that. It shows that they have that much money. And what I recommend to vendors, if I'm representing the vendor, what I recommend is to not consider the deposit, but rely on the agent to obtain the credentials of the buyer and ensure that they've gotten their financing taken care of and that they're going to be able to close. And then to not pressure them on having a big deposit, because what you're doing is you're negotiating on a term of the deal that's irrelevant for the most part, when you should be negotiating on the price. You should be negotiating on other terms of the deal that are material, like how long it takes for them to close, how long the due diligence period is. That being said, on the other side, if I'm representing the buyer, I will, depending on the agent, the sophistication of the agent, or the vendor, my perceived sophistication of them, I will advise my client who's buying to put forth a substantial deposit, because that unreasonably sways the vendor to think that my client is credentialed. So I do use this to my advantage if I'm representing a buyer. Developers, when they're buying a property, they try to put down almost no deposit because their capital is being used to conduct business, not to be tied up in deposits. In fact, I used to, for a developer, buy properties on a regular basis with zero deposit. We would do a deposit like basically at waive, once we went firm. That's not always that easy to negotiate, but anyway, I digress. The point is that there's a lot of action around deposits without being entirely thoughtful of it. And what I try to do on both sides is to choose an optimal path that's best for the deal.